I can tell you, Stella, in one session, I think it lasted 3 hours. That was it. I was on the floor bawling, like processing huge amount of information, as you know. And I stood up from there and I was different. That was it. I was like, oh my God, I'm back.
Welcome to your Boundless LeaderSelf. I'm your host, Stella Moresi, and I'm delighted that you're choosing to join me in these radical conversations for radical change. Compelling and enlivening, these explorations are intended to spark the sacred in you and show you what's possible when you embrace accelerated evolution as a way of life. Let's dive in and breathe new life into your potential. Hi, Celine. Thank you so much for joining us today at Boundless LeaderSelf.
Thank you, Stella.
Yes, I am so grateful to have you here because what happened in the last conversation that we were in with Louise and what I experienced emerging from you was nothing short of magic. So magic intrigues me. This notion of being so lit up by our own selves, being so lit up by knowing our own selves and being connected and congruent, for me is so spectacular. So to witness it in another person and so quickly after your re-emergence into this world, which we'll talk about today, yeah, that is pretty profound. So the theme that you and I have been in contact with around our short email has been this theme about life emerging. So re-emergence of life and what that takes. So I would love for the conversation today to start there and to see where it's going to continue. I don't have an agenda. I don't have a plan like we said. However, I do have that intention of exploring this theme of what it means to re-emerge into our own selves. What does that take? What happens? And what gets in the way? Because there's a lot of people that are trapped in that what gets in the way. Okay, so I would like for you to introduce yourself to our listeners, how you would like to be known, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I'm Celine Burlock, and I live in Nova Scotia. I've been a life coach for almost 25 years, I'd say. I'm also a registered counselor. And like you, Stella, magic, transformation, life-giving experience has always been something that I felt so pulled towards and drawn to. So this last year experience, I would say maybe 2 years experience of, like you described it, hiding, being lost, lonely, just feeling in a goop, like just no way out. And re-emerging from that is like, wow, for me, I still have no words to describe the entire process. And it's still unfolding because, like you were witness to, it's kind of, I'm a newborn. It's like I feel like a newborn. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I'm excited to see what comes up, what sparks the flame within me, what sparks inside of you, and yeah, let's create magic. I'm here.
Thank you so much, Celine. That's awesome. I'm really ready. So I'm very mindful that so often we find a path and we get comfortable. Mm-hmm. So there's an exploration of something and we discover something and then we pause. Our work, so you and I are both code model coaches, so creation out of deep energy coaches certified through the Well System Institute. And in that worldview, there is so evolution by intention, and what does that mean, is a way of life. And constantly seeking evolution by intention is a way of life. Mm-hmm. So you are a deeply committed, deeply connected woman And so I'm curious about, from when you knew that something wasn't quite sitting right? So what was your moment of what is actually going on here, right? So it's like you live your life in a particular way, and sometimes we get caught up in the habit and we don't notice what we don't notice. So I'm curious about, what are the things that you were not paying attention to, and what happened for inside of you when you began to pay attention? So what was that awakening moment and process like for you?
I could probably write a book on that one. I've been involved with wealth systems since probably 1999, give and take, 2000, 1999. And I've been probably taking the course, like lots of courses and conversation directly from Louise, and for maybe about 7-8 years nonstop. And I reached a point that I felt I needed to go in the world and be my own self. It's almost like, the bird leaving the nest. And so that's what I did. And I created a wonderful life, like professionally, personally, with my family, friends. Like it was pure magic. So that's probably give and take 20 years. And eventually I started manifesting accidents, like, concussions and big fall down the stairs that would take me a year or two to heal. And I started venturing into other modalities like chiropractor and physio, and name it, I probably did it. And it was as if you had put me on life support. It was giving me relief, but not the transformation I once experienced. So I kept going like this in the hope that, and I would kind of meet with a friend, really dear friend of mine, who also took some training with Louise, code model coach. And, we would have these fabulous, amazing transformation conversation going on. Yet I would go and then remanifest things that were similar. And I was like banging my head on the wall, wondering what that was all about. So in 2023, 22-23, my grandson and his family left to move in Alberta, which was very difficult for me because I'm very close to my children, my grandchild and my family. And it was very unconscious, but yet I was very aware of it. It was very interesting, the dance happening within my whole being. I was like, okay, what's next? What's next for me? I felt like I had nothing. Therefore, a few days after, I manifested a huge mega concussion. Was home, couldn't watch TV, couldn't go on my phone, couldn't do nothing. I was just there. And I was like, my God, like, why? So after a year and a half, again, going to physio, chiro, healers, name it, I did it. Then I was like, one day I woke up, I said, this is it. I had enough. I'm done with this. Like, and then it was as if I remembered Louise. All of a sudden, Louise came into my mind, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't talked to her for so many years. And so it popped about 3 times, because I always trust that, if it's the real message, it will come back. So in the span of maybe 2 days, she popped in. And I said, okay, I have to reach out. And that's what I did. And probably a few weeks after attending a conversation, I felt the pull to ask her if she would coach me. And I can tell you, Stella, in one session, I think it lasted 3 hours. That was it. I was on the floor bawling, like processing huge amount of information, as you know. And I stood up from there and I was different. That was it. I was like, oh my God, I'm back. And I understood that in the comfort of building my own life or creating my own life, I had forgotten that I'm this perpetual creator, and that I associated taking care of my grandson as creating, but yet I had to go deeper and higher, and that creation for me is life-giving to me. And I had forgotten that. And how many times do we as grandparents or parents, we forget because we take care of our family and we take care of our kids and grandchild or grandchildren. And that's what it was for me. I had forgotten me. And when I declared that morning, that's it, that's enough, that was the beginning of reclaiming myself in saying my boundaries or setting my boundaries again, because I had no boundaries left. It was like whatever my family needed, whatever my children needed, I was there. I was like, yeah, I'll be there. And I could never change that. Like I'm happy I did all of that. And now I know I will continue doing that, but very differently. I will not forget who I am in the process. So, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Thanks to Louise. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for outlining that in the way that you did. That was so powerful to bear witness to yet again. There's so many directions that I want to take this in. And what I think I want to focus on now is the power of the process. So when I heard you speaking, I heard you refer to the process of paying attention to yourself and the messages that stream through the body so that you can hear what's true for you. What's the pull, right? So when you heard Louise or, experienced Louise's presence, and you gave yourself permission to let it settle so that you can hear it again. When you began to notice that this concussion, the thing that in the allopathic model of the world we call a concussion, from a code model perspective, is a message that is coalescing at your emerging authentic self and will not be silenced unless and until you listen. So in comes Louise, and this is so interesting to me that in my life right now, there are two women that are re-emerging and have had similar experience to what you just described in terms of they tried it a different way. They tried, as you said, the chiropractor and on the physical domain, and then the Tony Robbins and, the Brene Browns and whatever of the world, where they fill you with content and information, which temporarily goes, oh yeah, well, that's nice and interesting, but it does not have that capacity to transform. That's one aspect of that. Another aspect of the process of transformation that I heard you speak to is that moment on the floor. So you are in a conversation, one singular conversation with Louise LeBrun, whom you trust and you have safe rapport with. So I think that that's very important to acknowledge that has built, right? It wasn't like you awoke to that. You built that and you knew it and you trusted it. And when you needed transformation, that's the voice that came to your mind. You know, you and I both know that the body is a quantum biological processor. So the body processes information at quantum speeds. What we have to do is pay attention and let the intellect fall out of the way. So I want you to, if you're willing, to speak to that moment on the floor and what happened for you. How did you experience that? What happened for you, and how did you emerge from that different?
Uh, Louise is magic. I've been asking that question since. What happens to her voice that it goes through you and then things happen? I want that secret. So basically, we engaged like this. I had asked Louise if she'd be willing to coach me. And she reassured me it was going to only take, 2 times, 2, 3 hours. And I was like, okay. And then she started giving me questions to ponder. And they were all the types of questions where there's no answer. It's just you sit and you let things come up. The energy and the waves started to just come up like naturally. It just, and I made myself a promise that I would go really, really deep for myself. I made that promise before engaging that I would not hold back. I would just, and I don't like the word surrender, but that's the one I'm going to be using right now. I would surrender. I would give into and trust the process. So that was the promise I made myself before. And so as she continued giving me those questions and talking, eventually everything became a blur, as if nothing was relevant in terms of content. And I could really sense energetically things happening, and very quickly. And I think, well, not that I think, I know she was able to calibrate that and see that in me as well. So she suggested that I go and reach for the floor and let myself be embraced by the floor. I don't know if those are the exact words she used, but so I just listened. Being a good girl, I listened. I went for the floor. I laid flat, opened my arms. My legs were like spread out. I was like, and this huge wave came through. And all she said was like, if I were next to you, because we did this over Zoom, I'd put my hand at the base of your spine and my other hand in the top or on your back, like upper back. And just that gave me the image that she was like right next to me, and I went. I don't know how long I was there, Stella, but I don't remember having such a huge wave for the past 20 years. And it was long overdue, I can tell you, way long overdue. And when I stood up, I had to grab my desk because I had to look around. Everything had shifted, and I knew that was the transformation I looked for. And as I sat down, my whole being felt different. I wasn't the same person. And when I say the same person, my sense is that all the unprocessed experience that I had, that somehow I seek to process but couldn't get to it, was now completed. That process was completed. And what showed up was really my higher self, the real self. No longer the false identities, the patterns of protection. It faded, like it just left. And after that, like it was just the way of thinking. My way of thinking was completely different. And I can report that all the symptoms of concussion that I still had, they were gone, vanished. And I could remember what I was saying 5 minutes after. Before I couldn't. I had to write everything. So my sense, using the body of knowledge will assist them, this whole area of identity, something happened that for me, the real identity showed up. It came, like it just manifested. I was playing small, and that's what I realized. And it was better for me, not better, intelligent for me to create something as big as, probably my 5th concussion, so that I can be busy keeping myself small, looking and managing a concussion versus creating a life that I want. Because it takes courage. It takes that I step in, and it takes that I claim it and it claim me. That's what I realized in that moment with Louise. And it happened like quantumly. It's just like poof, blink of an eye, multi-dimensional, all direction. I don't know how else to explain it. It wasn't incremental.
In terms of interventions, they're low in the structure of thought, right? So yes, they help because the body has its own intelligence. And what we're dealing with in a quantum TLC surrender moment, like the one that you so spectacularly described, in that state, we are deeply connected to the essence of what we are. We're connected to the void, the field of all possibility, where everything coexists simultaneously. And so you and I, who give ourselves permission to go there, have access to so much more information, and all of it at the same time, because there is no time in that space. And I think where we all get so illusioned is in the mindset that says, when your body is presenting an issue, focus on the issue, right? Focus directly on the thing and impose on it a thing. There is no understanding, right? Not even a conceptual understanding of how the structure of thought works in terms of its capacity to transform our bodies. So what I heard you speaking to is the process of hiding one's capital S self, which is what we call the I am that we each are, the truth of who we are, right? Like the essence of our being, the interconnectivity of all life, the field, consciousness, call it what you want to call it. Hiding that from the culturally conditioned self, so that the culturally conditioned self can continue to do what it's been doing its whole life, playing, pretend, and hiding. So in the process of hiding, it is a process. What happens is we inhale and we hold. We inhale and we hold, right? We inhale stressors and we hold. We inhale problems and we hold. We inhale and hold. And so the body becomes filled with the holding of quote unquote problems and patterns and perceptions of the world and ourselves. And if we don't know how to surrender, so if we don't know quantum TLC as a process to engage, which is what you gave yourself permission to actually go to, right? That is why quantum TLC works, is because it allows the massiveness of information to move through the body and for the body to do what it's designed to do at, 9 billion cellular interactions per second. Like, it's an insane amount of information that our body can process, but only when we give it permission to. So I really enjoyed everything you shared, and I wanted to speak to the power of exhaustion, because that seems to be really important for us when we don't know what else to do, when we're exhausted. And instead of stopping, instead of reaching for the thing that we know has potential to transform our lives, we keep hiding and we keep doing this thing, and surrender becomes an illusion. It becomes a, wouldn't it be nice if I had time to do that? Oh, well, wouldn't it be great if like I didn't have children to look after and family responsibilities and work and daycare and fill in the blank, right? Like this constant like chatter nonstop that exhausts us in a different way. But for you, it sounds like your commitment to yourself, right? Your commitment to your evolution, your commitment to no longer stay in the hiding, to no longer stay in the lostness, is what made the difference. In our email exchange, you had mentioned being the hero of your own story. So there's different ways that we can interpret that statement. And there's a choice point down way, and there's a choice point up way of exploring what it means to be my own hero. And for me, and I would like to know what that is for you, but in this moment, what's evident to me is that, and I don't know that the word hero resonates for me. However, I know exactly what you're referring to in terms of the family hero strategy. But to become my own motivator, my own commitment to my own evolution, to become the unwavering presence in my own life that allows me to take ownership of my life. That's what it takes to actually live congruently. So I'm curious about where you're at now when you think about this notion of becoming your own hero, and how would you denominalize that so that it makes sense to you in this moment?
That's such a great question, Stella. Even as we're talking, things are shifting for me. So, which is always great. If I want to just come back a little bit to the notion of, what you were saying in regards of when we take care and, the willingness to all of a sudden claiming yourself. What I discovered was my exhaustion was present because instead of seeking transformation, I was seeking feeling good. What can I do to feel good? Because that's what we see everywhere. Even as a counselor, when I work with clients, when they come to me, if I ask them, okay, how's your body? What's going on? And if they say, oh, I'm feeling better now. I'm feeling better. And what dawned on me recently, and that's just like in the past few days, I'm like, I don't want to create feeling good in people. I want transformation for them. I want to create a context that when they leave, they transform. And that was, I think, the moment for me that my exhaustion left all of a sudden. I didn't realize that I was looking for feeling good. So I will continue going to see a massage therapist just because, it does feel good. Yet, I'm not going to only seek feeling good. I know where to go to seek and find transformation in myself first. And if I have to engage with other people, I know where to go and I know who I can engage with to actually have transformation, not just feeling good. And I had forgotten about that. So I think that's a big piece in my journey. And you were talking about, in the exhale, we're exhaling and we're holding. That totally resonates with me. Because if I wasn't creating, in creation, that's an exhale. It's like giving back. It's the exhaling of. And you're right, I wasn't exhaling. And Louise had said to me, such a profound but yet so simple thing. Like she's like, Celine, focus on your exhale. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know last time I focused on my exhale. And I have lots of training in yoga and meditation and breathing technique. I have, but just that made such a difference for me. And that's what I did. And when she said, focus on your exhale and the inhale will take care of itself. That is transformation right there. And it shifted everything for me. And within that, coming back to exhaustion, what I realized I was doing in, playing the hero, the strategy of the hero of my own story, because, hey, I make people feel good. I help everybody. And within that, I was actually orphaning myself. I was abandoning parts of myself or the whole self when I needed to, because I had completely forgotten that I exist. So yeah, playing the hero is nice, but eventually for me, it switched into the lost child because I felt alone, completely isolated. And what I realized is that the isolation came and felt that I isolated myself from my own self. It wasn't that the isolation came from outside of me, it came from within. And I can tell you today it's gone. Like it's like, oh, I don't think I can even think of being the hero of my own story anymore. I don't know what it's going to be, but I prefer using the term creator of my own life.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like so many women who are attracted to this body of knowledge, to this way of living, have an identification with family hero. So they're constantly seeking to please people around them, their friends, their family, fill in the blank, and trying to solve the problems and all that sort of stuff that you and I know very well. And what came up for me as you were sharing all of that, yes to all of it. And what came up for me was that in order to, quote unquote, be the family hero, in order to take on that role as a strategy, right? That strategy as a role, what has to happen is we have to be in a process of self-betrayal. Because we cannot be all things to all people when we're not here noticing our own needs first, noticing our own desires first and putting those first. And then all the stuff that comes up around, doing that and what that might mean. So this notion of self-betrayal has been so massively in my awareness in the last little while. And I notice its interconnectivity with this notion of being a family hero in order to feel accepted, loved, all that sort of stuff that comes up. What we're not so well trained to do is to be creators, right?
Absolutely.
It's such a mind-boggling thing because we are born knowing that, right? So you've had 3 children, I have 1, and we can see in their essence and their very force of intimacy and innocence that they're born with. They're so curious and they're so enlivened and they just want to create. They just want to create. They discover a thing that they do and then they want to keep showing you that thing that they're doing and they want to keep creating and keep creating. And what we've done is we've put a value judgment on that in our society. So the value judgment becomes the thing with which we reward or punish that very force of I am creator.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So as we own I am creator, depth becomes far more important than breadth. Feeling congruent and aligned and certain in your own uncertainty becomes a priority over feeling good, right? A massage is wonderful. Who doesn't love a massage or a day at the spa or whatever? But it's not to escape your life. It's to actually just be in a moment and enjoy that moment in that way. Because it's not the same thing. It's not an escapist tendency from our own life, which is what so many people do, vacation or, drugs or whatever. So I find it so incredible when we connect deeply. And I think you made reference to that before. We connect deeply and we expand our context. So we connect and expand, and in doing so, we evolve. We become more. We're more connected to our own authenticity. And what is that? Right? It's such an interesting word because it's perpetually in evolution. And it is a word that, for me, has been associated with an evolving truth, right? So I am authentic as is available to me in this moment. And it is all intelligent as it is, as I'm creating it, because I'm the creator of my own life. And in being the creator of my own life, I can only create intelligently for myself. And so I've heard Louise say many times, God forces made, God forced messes. And so what does it take to awaken to our own God forcedness, which is becoming authentic creators in our own life? And what are the consequences of that? What are the outcomes of that? What are the state of being around that? So these are open-ended questions, and I'm not sure if you want to take it in a direction that's meaningful for you, but I welcome you to do so.
It's still new. And new is like, I use the word slightly. It's like resurfacing. For me, it's how can I embody that truth so that I live it daily, moment to moment, knowing that everything is given to me in that moment. All the resources, and when I say resources, I'm talking about my inner resources, and that it will be shown. Whatever I need for my own evolution, it will be in front of me. It will be given to me.
Including a concussion.
Including a concussion. The old self was seeking to have these rich and immense and unsettled experiences in order to get my attention. And it was brilliant. It was intelligent. And to me, I attribute it to the degree to which I'm such a capable creator. I can manifest easily, rapidly. And if I don't pay attention to that and I get lost into serving others, that's when my body will manifest these experiences. And when I think of service, I think that notion of service has been upgraded for me as well. In my own authenticity and coherence and alignment with who I am as a creator, what I'm creating will serve others, will upgrade their life, maybe transform, add value. Because to me, that's the highest value, that I can make life better for others. And yet I know differently how to do it now. And maybe there will be another upgrades eventually, and a few more upgrades, who knows? But for right now, I wake up in the morning and I ask myself, instead of asking, that's what I used to do, how may I serve? I'm asking, how and what can I create? Completely different. Who can I create with and co-create? So the notion of serving is not there anymore. Yet the repercussion of my creation will serve others, but I don't focus in the serving.
Well, what I heard you say is that it's your state of being that transforms. And
Yes.
in your state of being and living the process that you now know how to embody differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that awakening happened and it reawakened that vibration in your body that was familiar. It's like muscle memory or whatever people talk about, where
Mm-hmm.
once you know quantum TLC, you can never not know it, right?
Exactly.
Once that awakens in your body, you can never not know it. Once the models become integrated in the body and the body awakens to their truth, you can never not know it. And so now in living it and pointing people to that process, it gives them the opportunity to actually explore that for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And for me, it is now very clear that the identity I am is the process.
Mm.
It's the perpetual unfolding self. And that is the process. And it's like self creation. And I think for me, it's the foundation. Without it, nothing else can exist. So it's the God force expressing itself through matter.
Mm-hmm. So, if you were to put words to that, what would you call, what would you say for you is your experience of God force expressing through matter? I'm just curious. What are the words that resonate for you? What is the signal that resonates for you?
The word that pops up is essence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's a continuous unfolding for me.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm saying it, what I also realize is that that's the field of all, like, potentiality. And in order for the creation to be seen and touched and manifest, I need to bring boundaries around that. I need to bring boundaries in order for touching the tangible.
So when people hear boundaries, it's
Mm-hmm.
very particular nominalization, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's one that people may or may not know. I feel like I know what boundaries you're referring to, and I would like for you to denominalize what boundaries mean for you, because it's not a boundary. And I will link to the 7 layers of boundaries that Louise spoke to in the Navigating Chaos, one of, so I'll link in the show notes. But there are boundaries down here that say, you can't come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is
Yes.
boundaries at all logical levels up to and including authentic, showing up authentic, being inside your own self authentic. So when you're speaking to creation through boundaries, what does that mean to you?
My my capacity to play in the void and stay there is immense. And what I realized recently is that if I stay there, I can create. So boundaries for me is a word that I use, and maybe there is a different word, where it's almost like as soon as I put my attention to something, I just collapse the particles, and that was the boundary of it. Therefore, it will become tangible. Because otherwise, it won't be coming into form. That's what I mean. And that process is more clear inside of me. Because I spend lots of time up there. And when I say up there, there's no up there, there's no down. It's just, yeah. You know what I mean? It's a fun place to be. And the I am essence for me has no boundaries. Yet, in order for me to have a epic time here using this meat suit, I have to create. Otherwise, there's no purpose for me to be here. So creation is what drives that thrust, that life pulse for me to exist here in this moment, in this time and space. So that to me is those are the boundaries. If I want to take it up into identity level where like all potentiality, and then all of a sudden I want to bring it into so that I have the experience of the tangible that I can touch with my five senses. That's what I need to do. I have to collapse those particles using the boundaries.
So the way that I heard it is like a weaving, right? It's like a pulling from that which exists as possibility, as infinite possibility in all and any forms, or formless rather, and pulling at it and weaving it like it's not a braid, but kind of like weaving it into into a world of matter.
Yes.
And then it matters.
Yes. Oh,
right?
I like that. Wow,
So,
that's huge. Yeah, thank you for that, Stella. Wow. I'm having a wave now. That's good.
I think that's what we're all looking for. And I don't know what the intelligence of choosing to be born into this world at this time for all of this collective is. I really don't know. And I know that in a world of infinite possibilities, everything will unfold, and life in its infinity evolves and learns and expands. So I know what creation means to me, and it's not about I go to work and I create a report, or it's such a denigration of that word, like the way that we use it in our culture. It's such a denigration of that word. And what you and I are speaking to is creation from space, right? Creation from vast, infinite unknowns, and bringing that into a world of matter and watching it take form, and like almost like birthing, right? Like where does spirit come from, right? It pulls into our bodies, and then our bodies grow it, and then we birth it, and then poof, we watch it evolve. We become the space for its evolution. So I really appreciate this conversation about creating differently, and creating differently from this paradigm of of vast unknowns that we've been taught to be terrified of, and to collapse creation into, I don't know, a painting, or just, and I love painting, so I'm not trying to reduce that, but I'm trying to say that it's not a small creation, it is massive creation that then requires we become the massiveness that creation demands to unfold. So that's what I
It's
found
like,
with this body
yeah,
of
and it's
knowledge.
like it's a creation where it's beyond the persona. That's how it feels to me. It's like, you know, for me, I've created things that when I was looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, how did I do that? Like, what? And it's those creation where it was one insight after another that I didn't know what would come next. I just trusted the process. And within that, there were boundaries. They were like, and then I was like, and then poof, that beautiful things would emerge. And yeah, and it was like that it's almost like being the God foreseeing itself within the creation. It's the essence of this expression. That's how it feels to me. And coming
Mm-hmm.
back to when you said I matter, during my years of learning and training in yoga and taking courses with different teachers and exploring deeply things that, was in the way of my unfolding. One of them was I matter, because for the longest time, I didn't think that I mattered. And I would continue creating and beautiful things would happen, and then I would either lose it or something would happen. And it's almost like a sabotaging, I don't know how to call it, but. And when you said that, something clicked in me that it wasn't about I matter as in like, self-esteem matter level. It's deeper than that. It's like, the essence of the God force, the signal, the little mini I matter is irrelevant, completely irrelevant. So in that instant, that just left for me. So thank you, Stella. Because the I matter that we're talking about here is the manifestation in like putting it all together like magic into matter. We're talking about the pure creation of the essence of who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, it's about the birthing of potential,
Yes,
right? The birthing of expansion, the birthing of evolution, as
yes.
opposed to the opposite of that. Sometimes I'm so over, it's not overwhelmed actually, but overjoyed, over like enthused, saturated with joy and meaning when I have conversations like this. Like, to me, this is like gold. I don't even,
It's
it's
juicy.
just, it's so juicy and it's so delicious and it's so yummy and it's so enlivening and it's so incredible. And I am constantly baffled at what is it that terrifies people about this? What is it that gets in the way? And I don't know that I'll ever have an answer, because I don't know. And I can come up, with cultural conditioning and all this sort of stories. And I'm like, for me, somehow that's just not enough. But it might just be that I'm over here now. It might just be that my, struggles with addiction and mental health and physical health and all that sort of stuff that I went through for a decade now makes sense. But had I stayed in that domain, I mean, I probably wouldn't be alive today. So it's a very interesting thing, and it's just coming up for me right now because of how joyous I feel on the inside for myself, having this conversation with you and having the privilege, the absolute privilege of having these types of conversations on an ongoing basis with women that deeply care, that are profoundly committed to something other than commitment to the pain, commitment to the status quo, commitment to the default. It's just thank you for being willing to have this conversation with me and for going wherever it is that it takes us and for being willing to have it in public, because I think there's something massive in that choice to get out of the closet, put on a cute shirt, and like come and actually have the conversation that brings you, me, and whoever listens to this life. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's what creation is about. This is it. It's like an invitation. Here we go. This is meaningful and important. Do you want to engage? And we engage, right? You hear the calling and you engage it. You hear the calling and you engage it. And you hear the calling and you engage it. So thank you for being willing to do exactly that and to model what that looks like in real time through your process and sharing that with the world. I'm really honored to have been part of this awakening, just like when I read your chapter in Sekhmet Rising, and I felt like I was there with you. And it's like I took this journey from that time to what happened in between and to now being here and now. And the woman that I experience in the here and now is full of magic, right? Full of, like everything I wish for every woman on this planet all the time.
And yes, and vinegar too.
Well, absolutely. I'm Mediterranean. I need some lemon in my life.
There you go.
Whew. So, I'm mindful of the time, and what I would like to ask you next and to explore with you a little bit next is around what would you say if there was a woman listening that, is aware of your work or my work or Louise's work and has kind of like dabbled and, listens to a thing or two, but, is not quite ready to take the leap, because I think that's very evident to people when they stumble upon this body of wisdom, is that there's a leap to be taken here and we don't know where it's going to go. And the calling is either to engage it or to cautiously, just cautiously dip your toes maybe and test the waters. So I'm curious what you would say to someone who is listening and is in the process of considering dipping their toes in. What would you say? Or to someone that's like, what? I want to dive in, but I don't know. I just don't know. So.
That's an excellent question. The metaphor that keeps popping up for me is the one of birthing a child, actually. And I think you mentioned something to that. We have to birth ourselves. Nobody else can ever do that for us. And it comes with tears and snot and water moving and fire. So, the closer we get to our own nature with the elements, like the elements within us, and it's going to be messy. Yet, what I would like to say to these women is that you don't have to do it alone, in that other women's got your back. Like, we're all in this together. And I think for women, that's a big one. That's a big, big one. When I was feeling alone, creating this for myself, when I came out of this, was that, why did I allow myself to suffer so long? I'm not going to win a trophy at the end. you know? So yeah, like the body of knowledge well system is magic. It's transformational. I mean, it transformed my life over and over again. And it stayed in the cell of my being all these years, even though I wasn't engaging. I was still, when I was working with clients, I was engaging the body of knowledge. Like it's in me. And it's life-giving. So there's always two choices. It's either suffering, staying in the status quo, or, going down the precipice, what feels like a precipice, and then discovering life. And giving birth is messy. There's
Thank you.
contractions.
Yes.
And we contract every single time we birth ourselves. It's a metaphor. And I think it's very applicable to our lives. I went through several contractions before I birthed myself again. And yeah, it was messy when I was on the floor. The tears, the water, the snot, the shaking of the body, the fire moving, the heat in the body, sensations, all there. And to me, that's huge, but yet it's nothing compared to the immensity of my life. So I do it all over again.
So, what I heard there is to not be afraid of your own body, of your own impulses, of your own divinity.
And not being afraid of the body, period. The sensation, the staying in the body, being present to that, what shows up in the body, and breathing to it. Yeah, deeper and beyond the content or the story we tell ourselves, because we tell a lot of stories to ourselves. Like underneath the story, in the depth.
I think we need a whole nother conversation on the stories that we have internalized to be afraid. Because most women I work with are terrified, absolutely terrified of feeling anything other than control. And the paradox is that in allowing ourselves to be messy and allowing ourselves to experience the full measure of what's authentic in the moment, that's how we actually gain control at a much higher order expression of control.
Yes. That's life. That is life. Expressed through matter. That's life. It's moving, it's changing, it does its own thing. You just need to get out of the way of it.
Yes. And it has to be experienced, right? It cannot be intellectualized. It does not matter how many books I read or how much content knowledge I have. If I don't live it, what is the point? At least for me.
And that's exactly what I meant by, that's such a good point, Stella. It's interesting you say that and funny at the same time, because I've been purging my house. It's been probably 3 weeks now. Because now that I'm a new person, well, guess what? This house of mine needs to reflect this new person. So purging is like, my thing. And the books that I had accumulated and the amount of books that I didn't read and the ones that I read is like, anyway, astonishing. So I have boxes and boxes of books. And what I realized is that, I don't need to have so many books. I still enjoy reading, yet what I realized is that I was seeking outside of myself. That was one of my blind, it was one of the blind spot I still had, that I needed to look for somebody else's expertise or brilliance, actually. I was looking for somebody else's brilliance. And it's like, when I was reading, oh my God, I like the way this person wrote this. That's brilliant. And that in this endeavor, I had forgotten that I have my own brilliance. I'm the brilliant one here. So in a way, lots of books are, finding new homes right now.
I'm curious about, from where you stand now, how much of having all those books that you would never read was a distraction from what was going on inside of you?
That's a very good question. What's coming up is my belief that I still needed to be fixed somehow, that I would find the answer, the final answer out there. And it's so old, like that was like pre-teens. And I know exactly the moment I had made that choice. I was like, I don't know, 7 years old, when I could still see like the unfolding event where I thought I was not intelligent, that I was not bright, that I was dumb, and that I made that decision that I would go and study and educate myself. And in that time, it was how it was perceived, education through, university and all of that. And I did that. And I don't need to do that anymore. There's no need. Because right now, as an embodied creator, I just make it up as I go. And that doesn't mean I will not enjoy somebody else's books that, as another God force creating their book and honoring what mattered to them, and see if things pops up inside of me. But as an exploration, and also like as a process, an unfolding process.
Mm-hmm.
Not coming from a lack. I need to educate myself more because I'm lacking, but coming from prosperity where I'm already it, and now I get to enjoy your creation, and let's play magic together.
Yes. And from that place of wholeness, expanding.
Yes.
Right. So I am already whole.
Yes.
And expanding.
Yeah. And I get to enjoy you and enjoy your creation, and I get to enjoy the book that you created. And I can tell you that is like a journey for me, because I would never part from these books. They were like, if you would have given me a diamond, the diamond would have not had the same value as my books, the books. And I'm even shifting my books to the books. Just that is a shift.
Yeah. Not ownership of that anymore.
Exactly. It's, yeah.
What a metaphor for hanging on to external referencing. Or letting go, in this case, of external referencing.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. Thank you so much, Celine. You're delightful to have a conversation with. I will give you space to go on your vacation and have a ton of fun. But when you come back, I will be bugging you again. So You can go ahead and expect that.
By the way. I'm looking forward to it, Stella. It was such an honor for me to be here. I have to say, I feel so like blessed, and my heart is just fully, fulfilled from reconnecting with Well System and with you and getting to know you, reconnecting with Louise and the group. There were some familiar faces that I haven't seen for 20 years. I feel like I'm coming home. That's how it feels to me. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And coming home because, and I think I'm going to have like some tears there. Louise was there when I birthed myself. She was there, and that was such I can't describe the word I would go with it, but that moment was such incredible for me. And that's something you never forget. I never forgot that. That always stays with me. So thank you for inviting me here.
It's the depth of all of this. And I think the metaphor of the books for content, which is breadth, more, the seduction of the more is just, it's an illusion.
Absolutely.
It's an illusion when you're seeking depth, right? Like when you're seeking to rebirth yourself, to stay connected to your own meaningful life and creations and state of being. Very, very different things. So thank you for that. And
Less is
I'm
more.
crystal clear. Yeah. Less is more, right? And I'm crystal clear that this body of knowledge, because just like you, I looked everywhere. I was like all over the place because it's really hard to be addicted to drugs and not want to be. So in looking everywhere, and I stumbled upon this, and then I know the power of this body of knowledge. And so I'm at this very interesting time where, there's you coming in and so quickly the transformation that you were seeking for and holding on for unfurls, right? And then now you're different and I get to experience that. And it's just, I'm so enlivened by that and honored by that and delighted by that. And yeah, it's this is why I do what I do.
Awesome. And I'm really glad you found that body of knowledge, Stella, so that I can get to know you and we can be here together.
Wow, we reached the end of yet another episode of Boundless LeaderSelf. Now it's time to head over to the episode show notes for all the links and information mentioned in the episode. Feel free to explore all of it, and as you do, remember, breathing is good.